Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to toy-polloi. Now, I was recently contacted by Darth Bosk via Twitter, and he asked me if it was possible to swap the heads from a vintage original Han Solo with the head from a Bespin Han Solo, because he said he always hated the head that was on the original Han Solo and much preferred the Bespin one. And I said, of course, yes, that's an easy thing to do. So he said, well, if I send you a load of beta figures, could you do it for me and make a custom Han Solo? And really, I haven't done a custom figure in a long while, so I thought it would be great fun to do. So he has sent me 4 fairly beaten up figures. Some are worse than others, as you can see here. So let's take a look at them and then we'll start working out how we can swap the head on this guy. So first up, we have the original Han Solo. Now this figure isn't in too bad condition. He's got a little bit of wear to his hand. There's a bit of blue tack stuck in there as well, I see. That can easily be removed, and it's a fairly reasonable condition figure. A little bit of paint loss on the front there and the red lines have gone on the side, but the head is still in place. And then we have 3 Bespin Hans, all in fairly tatty condition. This first guy, well, he's missing his nose, he's missing his fingers, their feet and body aren't too bad. We have this guy who's been painted and has lost all sort of, well, he's lost his eyes and everything. He's in a really quite a tatty state. And the final guy we have is this one, who actually is the least bad of all of them. He's missing a thumb, but his face is not too bad. So I think we're going to use him as the donor one for the face because it looks the least damaged of them. But I might try and make another sort of good figure out of the remains of these 3 once we're done. So the technique we're going to use is the boil and pop technique. Now I've shown this in other videos before, so check those out. Basically, you put the figure in boiling water, and in this instance, because I'm going to be doing lots of limbs, I'm actually going to put them all in a pan of boiling water and boil them for a sort of 10 or so minutes so that the plastic softens, and we can then pull the limbs out and swap them. Now with these early figures, the heads are held on the same way. If you look here, you can see that the large head Han Solo, the peg goes into the body, and it's the same on this Bespin Han. Later Jedi figures have the peg go into the head rather than into the body, so these early ones are much easier to do. So first thing we're going to do is boil and pop the heads off these 2, so we'll swap his head for his head and then we can tidy up the paintwork. But I think while I'm at it, I am going to remove various limbs from these and make one good one, because the head on this one will go on here. The legs are very faded. The legs on that one aren't so faded, so I might swap the legs off this one onto this one. And then this head I think is probably salvageable. I think that one is. He's missing a nose. He looks like he's got a bit of a pig nose. So we'll do a bit of a mishmash of all of these 3 as well. So let's get on and do some boiling and popping. So for the boil and pop on this, you're going to need a pan of boiling water that you put the figures in. I'm going to leave the figures in this for about 10 minutes just to really soften everything. You can do it a lot quicker, but when I'm doing a lot of limbs like this, it's best to let them really soften because it makes it much easier to pull them out of the sockets. And then once everything is nice and soft, you can take the figures out of the water and, using tea towels so you don't burn yourself, carefully pull the limbs off. I use a pair of pliers to grab them because sometimes they can be particularly warm. And as you can see, the limbs and bits come out pretty easily. The heads probably come out the easiest, next the arms and then the legs. But in this case I'm also going to remove the arms off one of the Bespin Hans and swap them out for the arms off another one, because then we can end up with one reasonable looking Bespin Han figure as well out of the pile of figures that we have here. So after 10 minutes, this is what we have. We have the original Han Solo, but now we've swapped it out with the Bespin head. That actually fits on quite nicely, and that head works pretty well. It doesn't look too out of place. So really all we've got to do on this one is a little bit of touch up on the paintwork. I'm not going to bother touching up these red lines because I just can't get them looking good enough, but I'll touch up the pink sort of flesh colour bits on his hands and the white on his top, and we'll sort out his hair as well, and then that should be a pretty nice looking sort of original Han Solo with a Bespin Han head. And this is the other guy that I did. Now I swapped the arms out on this one because the arms on this originally didn't have any hands at all, so I swapped it out for the arms of this one where the legs had gone a very nasty green colour, and he's still missing a thumb, but actually that figure looks a lot better. He's still got a really messed up nose, but this is the sort of figure that I would stick in a ship and he would look perfectly good. So we might as well touch up the hair and the sort of flesh on the hands of this guy as well while we're doing the other Han Solo. And we are left with a pile of bits. Now this guy I didn't do anything with. He's really quite painty and sort of messed up. I probably with time could actually take all the paint off that, but I can't really be bothered on that one. And then we have this guy. Here's the original Han head, which is useful for spares, and a couple of busted up arms, which I didn't bother putting back on because they are so busted up. You never know what you'll find in the future, so I might be able to use this at a future sort of date. But for now, all of those are scrap. So let's get on and we'll repair the paint on these two guys. For painting Han, I'm going to be using a various array of colours from the Humbrol line. These are all acrylic paints. I have the flesh colour one, which is 61. I have black and white in matte, which are 22 and 33. I have RC red, which is a rail colour red, which I'm going to maybe try and do the lines on the side. I haven't decided yet. I'm not that steady at doing straight lines, so we'll see about that one. And I also have the gloss white, number 34, because the gloss on but the white on the front of him is slightly gloss. I'm actually going to do sort of a mixture of the two to make a white that's a similar colour to that. So really it's just a case of getting started and mixing colours to match. So we'll do that and see how far I can get and see how good I can make him look. I'm now going to move on to the hair. The white and flesh tones are all done. For the hair I'm going to be using white 22, black 33 and an RC 402, which is a sort of brown. I'm hoping that I can mix those together to make this sort of slightly grey brown hair that Han has. So it's just a case of mixing until you get roughly the right colour and we'll go from there. And here we have the final hand. Now that with the hair painted and the hands repainted, it actually looks an awful lot better. I didn't do the red in the end. I just cannot get straight enough lines. My hands are too wobbly, but I'm sure other people with sort of more fine detail in painting would be able to paint those on. But for me, that's just not possible. But the rest of the figure is looking really nice. I also did tidy up the sort of fairly beaten up Bespin Han I put together. I repainted his hands. I didn't replace his thumb this time because really he's a fairly beaten up figure and it didn't seem worth the effort. And I tidied up his hair, but as you can see his face is still pretty beaten up. But he's a perfectly good figure to sit in a ship, which is the sort of thing I would do with a figure like that. He's not good enough for display, but he's good enough to sit in vehicles and make them look like they have pilots. We can also compare the Bespin headed Han with the original sort of large and small head hands that I have here. If I just centre those up for you, you can see it's actually quite nice. I do quite like the Bespin Han on the original Han body. It's slightly different in shape to both of them. The original little pinhead Han, the head is just a bit too small, and obviously big head Han, the head is way too big. So it's quite a nice little custom just to stick the Bespin Han head on there. It's a good little figure in the end. So thanks again to Darth Bosk for suggesting to me that I should do this and sending the figures over. I'm going to return his sort of mishmash Bespin original Han to him so he can add that to his collection. And thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter and Facebook.